Hey all, I'm your host Michael and welcome back to Awful Stories. As always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave the video a like and consider subscribing if you're new. With that said, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Excellent Fee and was posted in the AITA subreddit. The post is titled, "I told my parents that I will take them to the cleaners." The people I will mention are my mum, Jen, my stepdad, Brian, my brother Tom, and my sister Ruth. For background, Jen and Brian have been together since I was 11. Well, I say that, but 11 is the age I became aware of their relationship, as she asked if we would be okay with him moving into the family home. Prior to this, she had never mentioned dating anyone and we had never spent any time with Brian. None of our other immediate relatives ever mentioned him to us either. The day Jen asked us, Ruth was sitting next to me and asked to be excused to her bedroom. Tom was not home to have any input. I was left by myself with Jen, who did not seem to understand how she had completely blindsided us. She had no interest in answering my question about why she had not told us. Her only interest was knowing if we accepted this stranger moving in. Brian moved in the following week. After Brian moved in, there were several times when both he and Jen threatened to move away without me, Tom, and Ruth. They would say, "If you don't like it, we will get a new house and start over." This threat could be in relation to something like Brian telling me I shouldn't be anywhere in the house except my bedroom, and me standing up for myself. I used to get called stupid by Brian a lot. If I did something he didn't like, such as finishing my homework before going to dinner, he would say, "Only someone this stupid wouldn't think to eat first." Any grievance I had with Brian was never acknowledged by Jen. If I raised an issue with her, she would deflect and change the subject. Brian would cause a lot of problems, knowing that there were no consequences for him. Brian never concealed the fact that he wanted Jen and only Jen. We were her baggage that he only had to put up with for so many more years. Tom, Ruth, and I were no longer taken on family holidays. The last one we got to go on was when I was my godmother's bridesmaid and she had a destination wedding. I was 10. Jen and Brian would go on 3 holidays a year without us. Living under that roof was the loneliest I had ever felt. The second I came of age, I bought my first apartment and moved on. No more Brian, no more Jen. Tom and Ruth wanted to come with me, but Jen wouldn't allow it, and honestly, I don't know how I was supposed to fight for them. I was working long shifts, sometimes nights. Though Ruth was a year younger than me, Tom was not. I doubt a court would have appointed a freshly 18-year-old as their guardian with Jen in the picture. One thing I did leave in Jen's care was my valuable book collection. I won't disclose exactly how much it is worth, but it is in the 7-figure range. Some of these books were my inheritance. I was always told that they are to be looked after, never played with, and stored correctly. I couldn't do that in my apartment, so Jen continued to keep them for me. I had no reason to distrust her with them. Earlier today, I called Tom as I was traveling home from seeing a friend. Tom mentioned that he had gone to Jen's house to collect some things. Because he was there, I asked Tom to find out if Jen had managed to get the remainder of my books authenticated. She and I had spoken about doing so a few weeks prior. Tom asked Brian about my books and then Brian laughed and said, "What books? My books?" Tom replied, "No, her books that you have been looking after." Brian then repeated, "My books." I was listening to this through Tom's headphones, so I told him to get Brian to clarify. Tom asked Brian what he meant by his books. Brian said, "They're ours now. We bought them." My heart sank the moment I heard him say that. Jen was not home. I tried calling her, no answer. She eventually called me back a couple of hours later, but not before Brian called me a pathetic liar and also spoke ill of Ruth, claiming her books as well, which she had in fact sold years ago while still insisting mine were also his property. To confirm, I have never sold anyone a single book. They did not buy me any books. All the books in my collection are to be sold at a future date or passed down to my children. Brian and Jen have never given me a single penny, so I can confirm this is not the case. Jen was unwilling to confront him about it. I am not going to allow them to steal part of my children's inheritance. Jen agreed that she never bought my books, but Brian refuses to give them back to me. I told Jen that her inadequacy as a parent, her failure to reprimand Brian over the years, and her lack of love for her own children meant this moment was a long time coming. I said something along the lines of, "You neglected me. You allowed him to take my happiness away for years. You let him walk all over me. I will not let you steal from my children. If this is how it has to be, I will take you to the cleaners. I will report you both for theft. I will sue you for everything I can. I will cut you out of my life again. You mean nothing to me. I am not in need of legal advice on this. I have a lawyer. I just want to know if I was out of line for what I said to Jen. I was very emotional at the time. Update. I am sorry for leaving things so long. I was busy with the situation, then traveling, and I thought it would be best to leave things until it was fully resolved. It has been a little over 2 weeks, but it has felt like an eternity. I'll start off by saying there is good news and bad news. The good news, I got my books back, all of them unscathed. They are physically in my possession and will remain in my care indefinitely. The bad news, I did not take Jen and Brian to the cleaners. Ultimately, my goal was to get my books back, no matter the route I had to take to do so. I'm sure you'll mostly agree that it was a good outcome either way, even if I am not suing my parents. I'll keep the rest of this as brief as possible. After speaking with Tom, I had already contacted my lawyer to set things in motion. They advised that they would contact Jen and Brian as a matter of urgency. Not long after speaking with me, Jen contacted Ruth to try to convince her to get me to speak with her. It was only going to be her attempt to get me to back down. I do not bluff. She knows this. Ruth said she told Jen that she hoped I would follow through, and then she ended the call. Jen tried to call back, but Ruth ignored her. Then it was Tom's turn. Jen tried to get Tom to talk to me and Ruth. Jen was still in agreement that my books were mine, but Brian still was not having any of it, and Jen was not putting him in his place. Tom said he agreed with what I was doing. I was told that Brian was shouting obscenities about me in the background, things like ungrateful jerk. You get the picture. Tom told me they deserved it, and so much more. My lawyer contacted them on my behalf 2 days later. All contact with me was to go through the firm from then on. This is what Jen told me happened after they were contacted. As I was packing up, it was a one-sided discussion. She told Brian that he needed to stop trying to claim my books. If he was intent on keeping them, he needed to make me an offer of their current value plus 30%, but if I said no, it meant no. How honorable of her. Brian was still adamant that he didn't need to offer me anything because the books already belonged to them and I wouldn't be getting anything. He also did not seem to think that I would win a legal battle against them, despite Jen confirming that I had everything needed for them to be guaranteed to lose. A couple more days later, my lawyer said that Jen had reached out to them on her own and said that she wanted me to retrieve all of my books. I had already made them aware that Brian was an issue because of his presence at the family home, but she assured them that he would be gone for the whole day, out of our city. Some days ago, I arranged suitable transportation for the books to my house. A few days ago, I went to collect them. When I got to the family home, Brian's car was not in the garage or on the front patio, where it always is when he is home, so I proceeded into the house. I know he would have tried to provoke me, even though I am not a violent person, because he wants a way to make me squirm. I walked right past Jen and went to where the books were. Brian has never been granted access by Jen, so they were perfectly secure, and I loaded them all into the van. It took a while. Brian won't notice they're gone because he has never been able to get into that room, and Jen probably won't say anything. Even if she does, neither of them knows my address. Jen was talking to me throughout, trying to get me to sit with her and speak like adults. She was saying cliche things like she regrets how she treated me and blah blah blah. If she had said all of this years ago, maybe I would have listened. But even now, I had to retrieve my own possessions in secret because she couldn't stand up for me as she should have. Words are empty. I did not say a word the entire time. My lawyer said everything that needed to be said, including that as long as Jen and Brian do not try to falsely claim my books. The matter was resolved once they were returned to my custody. Once I finished loading everything, I returned my keys to the family home. Jen tried to convince me to keep them, but I have no intention of returning there. The truth is, that place stopped being the family home the day Brian moved in. I have zero happy memories of it. My old room makes me sad to think about because it is a constant reminder that it was the only place I was permitted to be. Even writing this hurts. I needed my parent to look out for me. She failed in all other aspects apart from these books. I wish Jen had loved me like a parent should, but yes, I have my books back. That's a good outcome. Thank you for the earlier support on the previous post. That is all from me. I thought the drama with the stepfather was already heated enough, but the addition of the $1 million book collection was a lot to digest. It was just straight up tragic that OP had to face so much abuse at the hands of a piece of garbage. With all that pent-up anger, I definitely would not have allowed him to take all of those books, not just for the monetary value, but also because they were an inheritance from, I'm assuming, a loving family member. I also can't forget to mention the mom. She's a complete jackass for never standing up for her own daughter, but at the same time, she knew that the entire situation was so wrong. That was made clear when she arranged for OP to obtain the books when Brian was out of the city. This ending is just very bittersweet. The second story was made in the True Off My Chest subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled, "I'm moving out tomorrow. Husband doesn't know I found out that he's having an affair." When I found out about the affair, it devastated me. I'll be gone tomorrow when he gets home from work and he has no idea it's coming. Update. My update is not exciting, but I did receive some supportive comments, so I wanted to post one more time. Truthfully, I forgot about my first post until I tried to make an account for something else and got a message that my email address was already being used for an account. My update is that I am now divorced. It has been a month since my divorce became final. I moved out while my ex-husband was at work the day after I wrote my first post. In my country, you have to be separated for 1 year before you can get a divorce. Then my ex-husband dragged the process out for 2 years because he didn't want a divorce, even though he was the one having an affair with a colleague. I moved out because my ex-husband had inherited our home before we met, so I wouldn't have had any right to it in the divorce. I had to leave. I haven't seen or spoken to my ex-husband since I moved out, and I don't plan to ever again. During the divorce process, my solicitor communicated with his, even though my ex-husband wanted to see me and explain. I didn't care to confront him about the affair, get any details, or hear whatever explanation he was going to give. Divorce is no fault, so the affair made no difference during the process anyway. We had been married for 10 years when I left, but he broke my heart, and I don't need to see or talk to him again. I have a life without him. That's my update, as boring as it is. If you left a supportive comment, thank you for doing that. If you've been listening to me for a while, you'll know that I have zero tolerance for cheating, and this story is no different. Heartbreak followed by 3 years of legal shenanigans sounds absolutely horrid. This is made even worse when we realize that it was being intentionally dragged out by the ex.